Belief isn't something that you manifest, it is something that your brain learns. Hi guys, if you guys don't know me, my name is Hazel Ann, and thanks so much for joining me back on the podcast, a podcast all about inspiring ambitious individuals by providing the strategies, tools, and honest conversations to help you navigate your chaotic journey of building one's career in their 20s. And as a fellow 20-year-old, I definitely know. Today's episode is talking about the transition from belief to becoming and why it's so important to embody before you have what you want. And I know manifestation is becoming really huge, and I do believe in it. However, I also like a little bit of tangible scientific evidence to back up what it's talking about, because that's how I really can extract value from it. This episode, it's mainly talking about why sometimes you feel stuck, and more than not, we say we want to do something, but our actions don't align to what we want to do. And that's why we never grow. That's why we stay stuck in where we are and do the same patterns over and over again. And so I want to help break that loop. Daphne Debate talked about this recently on our TikTok, a framework, and I wanted to share it with you and research a little bit into why is this? How can we utilize the brain to become aware of this so that we can grow? And so the problem is that she mentions is that we live in this world where we go have, do, and be. Once I have the job, then I'll do more. Then I'll do what I want to do. And then I'll feel confident, I'll feel safe, I'll be happy. But when you are waiting to feel ready, you're actually just staying stuck because you're not doing the actions of the person that you want to become. And this stalls growth in careers, and it also prevents you from really gaining that self trust and that sense of self. And also, the brain can't update belief without evidence. And I think this is really important to note. The brain cannot update belief without evidence. And so I'm not going to be talking about the delulu of manifestation, which sometimes I feel like can come. And don't get me wrong. I think being delusional is great. However, I think it is up until a point. And that's how I feel, because I truly believe that action is so imperative when you are also believing. I want to go into what the belief memory loop is and the simple neuroscience. So what happens with the brain is that it first perceives information. So it takes in something. So say you are sending a text to somebody or an email and to invite them somewhere, and then nobody responds. Then comes the emotion. You're anxious because nobody has responded to your text. Why isn't anyone responding? Does nobody want to come to my birthday party or something like that? And then it goes into memory. It recalls past events to confirm what you're putting out there. Well, this person didn't come to my last birthday, so they don't really like me. They canceled. And then this starts to form the belief. People don't like me. People don't want to come to my birthday party. And then it's the behavior finally. And so because nobody likes me, because nobody shows up, then honestly, I should just stop having a birthday party and stop planning these events. So that is how the brain loop goes. It's perception, it's emotion, memory, belief, and then behavior. And why this is important is because belief strengthens when reality confirms them. So when your belief is strengthened, such as nobody likes me, and then reality confirms it, nobody has responded to your text, nobody comes, then it actually hits a dopamine reward. And this continues and it strengthens that belief system. And so you stay in this loop. And so when there is no new behavior, there's no new memory. And then the belief again stays the same. So this is how the belief memory loop happens. It's when you don't take action. And honestly, the belief system happens so fast, faster than your conscious thought. It happens at 100 to 300 milliseconds. And as I talked about previously with the error system about why we hate making mistakes, that happens at 150 milliseconds. So you can see that belief happens even faster sometimes than the conscious thought. That's why we have that gut feeling sometimes, because it's taking on past experiences and running them automatically. So when you have that gut feeling that something's not accurate, that's actually you extracting from past experiences to inform the new one before your conscious has even thought of it, even before it has become aware. And so I think relying on your intuition and your gut is definitely important, but it is also based on your past experiences, extracting from past experiences that aren't new. So sometimes what I feel like is that when we are fearful of things, that is our gut intuition extracting from the past experiences because they don't have anything new to show. So sometimes relying on your gut intuition, I think, is a little bit iffy. You have to be cautious because it's taking it from the past experiences to see because you haven't survived it yet. You haven't survived this new experience yet. And so automatically using your gut intuition to close yourself off from future experiences that haven't happened because your brain cannot recall from the future, it cannot take from the future. I think it's something to just be a little bit of aware of because sometimes new opportunities can bring fear and that gut feeling of, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work out? I shouldn't try. However, that is a limiting belief from your past saying that. So I think yes, it's important to be cognizant of your gut feelings and your intuition because normally you do know. But this is why it's so important to embody what you want so that you can feel prepared, so that your nervous system is aligned to where you want to go. Fear or confidence normally shows up before logic and your rational thoughts because again, the belief system happens faster than your conscious awareness. And I just want to go into quickly about the types of memory systems. And so there's currently three that I've found. I don't know if there's more, but these are the three main ones. And so the first one is episodic, and this is mostly tied to your emotional feelings, your personal narratives, what's happened. And these are very vivid and these are very strong. Honestly, when you have a very high emotional attachment to something, you remember it more. And then it's the semantic. And this is the verbal, where you're able to verbalize things. So your identity narratives, I'm capable, things like that. And then you have your working memory, and these are the in the moment reasoning. It's during interviews, it's during meetings when you have to make those short decisions and things like that. And so now I want to talk about what embodiment actually is. Well, embodiment is acting as the person before the belief fully exists. And this is not pretending that you're somebody else. Yes, it can be pretending to be like, I am the CEO, or I am the manager, or I am whatever you want to be. But beliefs come from experience, not imagined futures. This is why it's so important to believe because it informs these experiences. When you embody this, you are becoming someone and you are trying to imagine what that looks like. And when you are embodying something, you are normally visualizing it. You're normally speaking it out into existence or you're journaling it, whatever. And you're acting like this person before the belief comes. So you're forming these experiences so that the belief can form from them. And it's not just pretending, it's actually becoming that person. So, what this looks like, for example, is speaking before you're actually confident, speaking before you're ready, deciding to speak up, to present, to raise your hand in class, and to say something. That is something that I'm working on. I really want to try to speak and engage more in class because I've been really passive lately, and I feel like a lot of students at my university are very passive and not actively engaging. And I feel like this really hinders our learning because we really need to act in order to learn. We need to experience to learn things. And so I am actually hindering my learning experience if I'm not showing up and acting and engaging thoughtfully in these lectures. And it doesn't have to be something big, it could be even just asking a question about what the professor said. Obviously, a meaningful question, not something that will deter everybody else's learning or something that I can look up online. No, something that's actually conducive to the topic. So, speaking before confident, and then also leading before the title. Being able to show leadership skills before you even get the title of a manager or a CEO or whatever, because this is about embodying. By leading before the title, you are showing yourself, you're creating these experiences to show that you can lead, that you are a good leader. And then you start forming those beliefs that you can lead, that you are capable. And so you don't wait to believe, then act. You act, and then the belief follows. And I wanted to go in a little bit about why speaking and journaling changes beliefs, because I think this is really powerful. So, belief starts as full experiences, not words. And this is really interesting to me because it shows up before we're able to verbalize it fully. And so speaking and writing can force the brain to reorganize the belief. And also therapy as well. And so what happens when you speak is that the language areas are actually reshaping the emotional memory. And remember, emotional memory is tied to the episodic memory. And so when you have that vague fear of presenting or something like that, or going into an interview or whatever, you make it more specific when you are actually speaking about it, and then it becomes a little bit more manageable. That's why keeping everything in your head is really complex and it feels overwhelming and jarring because you're not actually making it clear. And so, what happens is that when you are able to speak and verbalize what you're feeling, it becomes a bit more specific, it becomes more clear, and then your experience informs that belief. So, for example, when you say that I'm bad at interviews, try articulating what you actually mean by verbalizing it. Why are you bad at interviews? Well, I get nervous at the start, but I answer clearly once I've settled those nerves or once I've been in the room for a longer time. So I hope that kind of makes sense, that you're actually trying to clarify what you mean when you say that. So that's why speaking is really important. And that's why having a conversation and stating it out loud to somebody else can actually, I guess, release that fear about what that actually is and elucidate for yourself about what you're actually feeling. That's why it tends to be that when you're talking to somebody and you're talking about something that's really hard, you honestly just want somebody to listen because you yourself are trying to clarify what you mean, which is why having that conversation and speaking up and being vulnerable is so important. When you journal, writing slows down the brain. And I think this is so interesting because it separates what happened, the event, and then what you felt, the emotion, and then what you concluded, which is the belief at the end. And so by separating this, it actually helps you clarify what happened, what you felt, and what you concluded, so that then you can understand more about the situation. And you're not just forming a belief about something that is just out of your imaginary. It helps to really solidify what you're meaning and create that informed belief. And so, for example, you can have an old belief, but then when you write it down in your journal, you can do, well, what happened at the event? I missed the bullet point of my presentation and I missed a really important topic. And what I was feeling is that I was really nervous because it was in front of a lot of my peers and leadership. And so what I concluded is that I was nervous, but I still showed up. I still presented and I still got through the presentation and I communicated clearly. So no longer are you thinking that you're not good at presentations or that you're confident. No, it was a situational thing where you were nervous, you were in front of your peers, you were feeling anxious. And what you concluded is that, yes, I missed that bullet point. Yes, I missed that topic. However, I was still able to get through that presentation. I'm not a bad presenter. I just made a mistake in that presentation. And so again, you're not tying your identity to this and you're changing that belief. And so, what speaking and journaling really does is that it updates the memory accuracy because it reframes that belief and then it locks in that new experience and memory so that when you have another situation, you're able to recall that experience instead of the previous one, which is why it's so important to speak and journal because it's reframing that belief into something that is more conducive to your growth. And so now I want to get into the framework that I was talking about. So previously we are always in the have, do, and be, but I want to reverse this. And this is what Daphne talked about. She talked about instead of living like that, it's so important to do be, do, and have. And this is the embodiment framework that I was talking about. So when you start off with being, that is the belief. That is the who am I becoming? What belief does that person hold? And belief is the prediction system, not the mindset. And so when you start believing and you think of who is that person that you want to become, you are embodying that person that you want. So, say, for example, I want to work in consulting or something. So, first you're thinking, okay, what would that person in consulting be? Who are they? What do they emulate? And then it goes into the do behavior. And this is, what would that person do today? Well, the consultant would probably speak up. They would lead. They would be able to deal with ambiguity. They would be able to deal with uncertainty. They would have really good communication skills. And so maybe what they're doing is that they're constantly having conversations to improve their communications. Maybe because they are dealing with ambiguity at a daily basis, they're able to switch up their routines a lot. Maybe what they're doing in a consulting firm is that they are constantly advocating for themselves. They are constantly creating presentations. They have to look at Excel, maybe, whatever they are. So how can I do that? How can I learn more Excel to be a consultant? How can I deal with ambiguity on a daily basis? Well, maybe I can start doing something new, learning something new every day, or maybe I can take on challenges. This is your behavior. This is showing up and doing the small, real actions to become that person who you want to be. So it's not all this delulu things. It's not being delusional. You're actually embodying the person that you want to be by taking the action of the person who you are wanting to become. And so take the risks. Surround yourself with people that will help you grow. Surround yourself with ambitious people. Surround yourself, connect with people that are in the consulting industry or whatever you want to do, because this will help you become that person that you want to be. And action creates that episodic memory. And when you have that emotional and personal element, that is really strong evidence that then your belief follows. Because remember, belief follows action. And then you have the outcome. So once you're doing all these things and once you're embodying the person that you want to be, then ultimately you will become that person and you will have that result. You'll be confident. You'll be able to lead. You'll be able to have clarity. Opportunities will follow that action. And this is not just magical thinking. It's actually proof because you are repeating those actions of that person that you want to become. And so instead of just going in the have, do, believe, where you think that I'll have this and have that, well, you're not actually doing the actions of that person because you don't even know who that person is. So that's why it's so important to have this embodiment framework where you are being that person, doing the actions of that person, and then it's inevitable that that outcome will happen. And this helps to speed up growth, in my opinion, because you're actually aligned with who you want to be and you're doing these intentional actions. And so this is why I think embodiment is so important. It also prepares the body for this person that you're becoming because you are already imagining who this person is. You're already creating that experience in your mind, not an imagined future, but you're preparing your body for what this person is, for who this person is, so that when you arrive at this stage, you'll be so clear and confident in who this person is because you're building that competence. Because competence creates confidence. And so I know I said a lot, but I hope this made sense. But I think it's just so interesting because a lot more times than not, imposter phenomenon, which I'm pretty sure I talked about, is that it happens when you have achieved something, but you don't feel like you deserved it. And this is where the embodiment framework can help because you're already embodying this person. You're already understanding who this person is. So you feel in your body that you're prepared, that you do deserve this, that you are at a state of calm. So that when you do achieve this thing or when that outcome follows the actions that you have done, then you feel like you're ready, that you're deserving. And so it helps lessen that imposter phenomenon. So a very powerful tool in my opinion. And I just wanted to close off with that your brain doesn't believe what you want or the truth even. It actually believes the remembered experiences and emotions. And this is why the embodiment framework is so important because you are becoming that person who you want to be and you're taking those actions and then the opportunity follows. And so you're not concentrating solely on how are you going to do this? You're not focusing on that because you're already understanding and clarifying to yourself who that person is. What would they be doing? And you're so self assured and confident in that. And so I just think it's really interesting to see how belief works with the brain and how you can utilize that to create the life that you want and embody that person so that you can take those actions and have those opportunities. So I hope this episode was helpful and resonated with you. I hope it gave you a little bit of more clarity on what this embodiment framework is and how you can use it in your day to day life. And this was just a little mini episode, and I will get back to the upskilling episodes in the next one. And so, before I close off this episode, I just wanted to ask you guys, what is one way that you can embody the next version of yourself today? How are you going to take the little mini actionable steps of that person that you want to become? And I'd love to hear if you resonated with this framework or what you think about it. I read each and every one of your comments, so definitely subscribe so I can keep making episodes, and follow Instagram or TikTok and YouTube and Spotify as well. And thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.